Hey there, everybody. Wow. Wow. This is our review of the Blacklist Season 8, Episode 2. They weren't kidding when they called this Katarina Rostova conclusion.
Oh, yeah, man. Holy smokes. There was a lot going on.
Holy rusted metal, Batman. Like, this was one of the biggest episodes I think we have seen. I do think, honestly, it is going to be a polarizing episode. I think there are going to be people who like this one. I think there are going to be people who hate it. I think there's going to be 1,000 different theories that spawn out of various conversations and even just like one-liners that people have in this episode.
Oh, for sure. There's going to be so many theories and so many theory videos at this channel. So if you are not subscribed, definitely hit that subscribe button. We are going to have a lot of videos coming up.
And if you do want to support us further down this wild mystery tour that we're all going on here, check out the link in the description to the store. You can get a shirt kind of like this one. We got some other cool stuff there as well we're checking out.
All right. So where do you want to begin with this one?
Okay, I don't want to bury the lead too much here because Katarina's dead. Okay, let's just
spoilers ahead.
Yeah, if you're watching this at this point, you got this. It's a surprise, and it's not a surprise. We knew this was probably happening at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the name of this episode is Katarina, the conclusion. So, I mean, the conclusion was going to be this. I didn't see any sort of other way out of this. But after seeing Reddington kill Katarina and Liz is watching, this relationship is starting to feel beyond repair. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that are feeling a certain type of way about that, including me, because I've really enjoyed Liz and Reddington together. And I've really enjoyed them going through their sort of criminal adventures together. But I don't know how you walk this back. Even if Katarina is an imposter, let's go with that.
Yeah.
She doesn't think this. So if she thinks that he has killed her mother, depending on how long this goes on for, if this goes on for a full season or a year or whatever, there may be no walking this back. Like, he's been responsible in some way for killing her dad, Tom, now her mother, like a lot of people that she loves and cares about. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are frustrated with Liz in general.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, but at the same time, this sort of body count of all the people that she loves getting killed around her because of either things that Reddington has done or Reddington doing it himself in front of her, I understand why she's at the point that she is now, that she's just like, I'm done. And I think that relationship is almost at the point of it's not mendable.
First of all, are we sure that Katarina is dead? No, I'm joking. They're not doing that again.
All right. They better not.
We've already had the Kazanjian brothers. We've had Mr. Kaplan. We don't need... No, the Katarina's gone. I don't think that there's any way around that. And I do think, and this is my obvious caveat for everything related to the Blacklist, is unless there is a really darn good reason why certain things are happening, yeah, Liz wouldn't walk this back at this point. Like, this man it's not so much that he has intentionally lied to her about everything, but he did say back in the pilot, everything about me is a lie. He has repeatedly withheld information. There was that scene where she was straight up asking him about in 13, about the archive, this information that Katarina had handed down, and he just stood there like sort of a very fancy statue in a hat and did not give her what she needed.
Yeah, I want to give a moment pause for James Spader in this episode, because as much as I love when he has these big monologues, and I really love that.
Yeah.
James Spader as an actor is like next level when he says nothing and he's just facial expressions, body movement. He's incredible. And I mean, he's been acting for decades. So,
yeah.
I mean, I expect him to be this good. But the moments in this episode with him where he is saying nothing but saying everything were extraordinary.
I'll also give Megan a little bit of love here, too, because that scene she had with Dembe where she started to sort of say he always wins, I know that I should have known that whole time that that was a prank and that it was just, and she was setting him up, but like, for like 1 second, I bought into it, and I was like, oh, she's actually really giving up now.
No, I agree, and because there was a moment that I was also thinking that, and after all these years and everything that's happening, I could see that she could have actually been at that point where she's just like, I have nothing left in me to fight with.
Yeah, and I would totally understand that. Like, this man has jerked her around and made her confused, and yes, I think Reddington feels like whatever he is doing, and I think you and I have both been pretty consistent about this, he's not intentionally trying to hurt Liz. Like, I don't think the destruction of Elizabeth Keene is his number one goal, but if there is just sort of emotional shrapnel, like, Liz is getting hit with all of it. Like, it's still affecting her.
For years, it's been going on and on and on. And I'm not here ragging on Reddington. I love him. He's such a great character because he's so complicated. He's a bad guy. He's a criminal. He's a bad guy, but he's also someone who loves and someone who cares. He is very complicated, which is why we all love him as much as we do. He's not necessarily just a criminal with a heart of gold. There's different layers to that sort of heart of gold and where it matters, and that's what's so good about him.
And now that we have we've set the table now for the end of the episode, we can rewind a little bit and get into the mythology and where things get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that Dom conversation with Katarina, or the younger Katarina, and him sort of, when she's like, who took the archive? And he's like, you did. And she's just like, what? I did? Well, who has it now? Both Katarina and Reddington. And when he said that, I was just like, okay, so then Liz has it. Because if Katarina and Reddington are her parents, that would be a way that both Katarina and Reddington have it, is if somehow Liz has it.
It's a very compelling theory, that idea that maybe Liz has it and that Liz doesn't even know that she has it perchance. And, I'm sure that's something we'll talk about more in the coming days, but it is a definite possibility, as is the fact that this is the second time that we've seen Katarina have a discussion with someone where they're telling her information that theoretically she should know, and she acts like she doesn't know it, because she did this with Ilya too last season. For all of you who think that this Katarina is a fake, and I have been resistant to this idea, you're starting to win me over a little bit.
Yeah, that scene also started to win me over with that, because Dom wasn't actually seeing Katarina in the present. He was seeing her in the past. So I would think that if he was seeing her and that wasn't his daughter, he would be like, who are you? Like, it's one thing for Reddington to be playing this imposter Katarina and vice versa. It's another thing for her father to be on his deathbed being like, I'm going to go along with this. At that point, I think he would be like, I don't know who you are.
I just think in the end, why would you bring back Lord Verbeek for any other reason other than that you want people to think that maybe the Katarina in the past and the present are not one and the same? And the thing, and by the way, I love Lot. I think she was great on Outlander. She's great every time that we see her on this show. But it feels like there's an intentionality behind all of this, and it is nice to kind of get one piece of verification, because I remember in Rosfet, Dom says that he never really saw Katarina again after the end of that story, and he sort of reiterated that again with her. I thought I would never see you again, and that sounds really, really definitive, and that sounds to me like he doesn't think, whatever he knows about Katarina, that it's possible that someone like this present-day Katarina, as played by Layla Robbins, could be out there visiting him again.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily what that means, because there's a lot of thoughts about that. We talked about one of the ideas that I really have, and I'm leaning more and more towards, that maybe the real Katarina is out there captive somewhere, and Reddington is trying to protect her and keep that secret, and he's really operating or being in 13 out of love. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of evidence for this just yet. I just want to believe it.
I agree.
But we have all of that, and then we have the conversation between Reddington and Dom, which is such a stab in the heart.
No, it was such a stab in the heart. And that, again, him saying nothing but saying everything with that kiss on his head. This episode was really good.
It was really good for the emotional stuff.
Yes.
And I will reiterate, I do think the new actor who's playing Dom, he's doing a really good job.
He is.
I do miss Brian Dennehy, of course, but saying goodbye to this character, Dom, I mean, we all knew that this was coming, but, some of my favorite episodes of this show have Dom in them, like after Cape May when Reddington goes and sees Dom, and it's just... I love these characters. I love that it's Reddington who really says goodbye to him.
Yes, I agree.
And then things get a little bit crazy here with Reddington, because Reddington makes it clear that Dom knows that Katarina loves him very, very much.
Yep.
And that Katarina will always care for him.
Yep.
It's so fascinating, though, that when we saw Katarina... She was never really like, I love you, Dad, I care about you immensely.
No, they really, obviously we have this whole story that Katarina has said that she was set up by her dad to be, take this fall and basically be killed and all this stuff. And so that is something that I understand that at that point, then Katarina's like, I'm done with you. Like, yeah. It's enough. I've been running for decades now because of what you've done to me. That she wouldn't really care that he's gone because he's ruined her life, if that story is true.
Yeah. And it's a justifiable reason for Katarina to be enraged. This Townsend directive is activated against her. She's been labeled, you're in 13, you have the archive, whatever it may be, that, her head is being offered up on this silver platter. And of course she's going to blame Dom for it to some degree. But what makes it so interesting, though, is why is Reddington then speaking for Katarina? I think a lot of people who are behind the extremely polarizing, I have seen all the comments, the Reddington is really Katarina theory. I think they're going to cling to this scene a lot, that this is Reddington speaking as Katarina, just in like third person in that moment.
Yeah, and the other moment that gives more fuel to that fire is, again, that moment where Dom says, Katarina and Reddington have the archive. So if Reddington is, Katarina as well, then that also makes sense that, they are one and the same person and they have the archive.
And if Katarina is held hostage somewhere against her will and Reddington is operating under the orders of someone else to protect her, he might know that the real Katarina loves Dom, and despite everything that happens, it doesn't necessarily change that love that is there.
There might also just be a little bit of sort of humanity with it, to allow Dom to pass away feeling that whatever Dom has done to her, that there is forgiveness, there is still love there is enough for him to feel that he can pass on.
It's very true, and there is humanity with this show, and also sometimes I think we can all agree that we make it more complicated than it probably actually is in reality.
Yes.
But that all of this stuff, as good as interesting as it is, we've lost Katarina, we've lost Dom, we've lost two incredibly important people in this mythology. There is a big question now as to, okay, where do things go from here? And, maybe we'll talk more about this in the preview. But we see, ultimately, after Katarina gets her answers, she decides to seek out Mr. William Heidegger, which I'm assuming is just a Final Fantasy VII reference because Heidegger is a character in that game. I've never met another Heidegger in my life.
Yeah, and he's like the Western Hemisphere of the Townsend who... Listen, I'm going to be here. I have a little bit of the disappoint with this because for the Townsend, sort of directive to be this like really powerful killing machine, mysterious killing machine, Reddington got to him in like 5 minutes, 2 guards at the gate. This guy's dead, and he's supposed to be like one of the highest ranking members of this. I was just like, why didn't Katarina just go with like a bunch of goons and just shoot him herself? Like, he was so easy to get to and so easy to then manipulate on the phone with Katarina and so easy to kill. It's just like, why is anybody afraid of this guy?
Can we just say that William Heidegger sucks? Like, because this really was kind of just a crummy sort of reveal here, where it was pretty easy to get the Heidegger. It was pretty easy to just take him out. I understand that, Heidegger, apparently, I'm guessing the Eastern Hemisphere of the Townsend organization has a more powerful person. Maybe.
It better be way more powerful, because if they end up sort of bringing in more people from this Townsend directive and who are all running it, they've already set the bar for me very low with this, that there's like 2 guards that were easily taken out, 5 minutes, this guy's dead. I was just like, I don't know, man. I really expected this to be sort of that next level, that once Katarina is sort of the big bad is done, that this was going to be like even worse.
Yeah, it's true. I kind of thought we were going to have something a little bit more with this, but maybe we still will. It's just we spent a full season taking care of Katarina. We spent 5 minutes taking care of this Heidegger dude, but you know what? I kind of appreciated Reddington going full Weekend at Bernie's with him with the sunglasses on and like the dead body sitting on the bench.
Yeah, and this is where I think the shift is coming in, where we talked a little bit at the beginning about Liz being at the point of no return. There is no mending this relationship anymore. It is very unlikely at this point. Katarina recorded this conversation on Liz's, I guess, voicemail or whatever's going on. So now she also has this information of sort of who Reddington is. He didn't confirm that he's N13, but he kind of was like confirmed it by saying, well, what are you going to do with this information now? Now that you know the truth, what are you going to do with this information? She's like, I'll keep it to myself. No, that's not happening. But now Liz may become sort of the big bad in Reddington's life, because if she has that information, he's killed all these people that she's loved. She is done with him. What is she going to do with it? She's going to go to the Eastern Hemisphere guy and be like, listen, I'm willing to give you this information because I'm done with him, which is going to make the entire Blacklist community so mad, like beyond mad. Or is she going to go to Cooper? Like, what's she going to do with this information? Because she is going to do something. She's pissed.
I am wearing my hard hat like 24/7 for just every Blacklist thing here on out. If they never bring Liz and Reddington back together, that conversation with Reddington and Katarina or whatever we want to call her, it was so fascinating to sort of think through the dynamics that were there and the back and forth, because like there's so many different reads on what it could be and what their relationship is, because we know obviously that this Reddington is an imposter seemingly, unless it is the real Reddington or whatever else. But Katarina seems to know that that's not the real Reddington.
Yeah, she mentioned that as well in the last episode.
Yeah, and Reddington, if this Katarina isn't the real Katarina, Reddington would also know that. And so you get into this sort of weird dynamic of like each one of them knowing interesting things about each other, and what could all of this sort of thing mean. We have another video coming up where we'll talk about the idea of whether or not, this Reddington could be Katarina's twin or something like that. I know that's a theory that's been out there as well, but it's just the way that this Reddington and Katarina talked in this conversation, in particular Katarina's whole "you can't kill me" sort of spiel, like that made me think that she thought Reddington thought she was the real Katarina for whatever reason, because that was her only leverage to stay alive.
Yeah, I think she overestimated the relationship that Liz and Reddington have over what Reddington needs to do for himself, for his empire, for the N13, for whatever secret it is that he's holding in, that everyone is disposable. Everyone. Like, whatever this is, it doesn't matter. Like, even if I have to, hurt Liz beyond repair and that relationship will never come back again, then that is what has to be done. And I think Katarina really underestimated that, or overestimated that relationship, that he'd be like, I really don't want to lose Liz, so, okay, I'll let you go.
If that is the real Reddington, and if that is the real Katarina, I'm actually a little bit bummed out then that, like, these two, despite a lot of clear differences and betrayals and darkness in their past, they did really at one point have passion and have like love, and there was something that was there, and it's just that goes out in such like a violent and just really, really cold way. And yes, I know Reddington is a criminal, but
He is.
he's also a criminal who I believe is capable of love, and I still want to believe that love is a driving factor for him.
Yeah, and I mean, even though he loves her, I mean, he can still love her and have to do what's right for whatever else is going on inside of him. If he thinks there's a bigger purpose, because he is a big picture kind of guy. Like, even if you just look at his little blacklisters of the week, it is always for a bigger purpose. So, I mean, because he's a big picture kind of guy, if he has to sacrifice people that he loves, and in this case, he is sacrificing two women that he loves, he's killing Katarina, and he is sacrificing his relationship with Liz for whatever this secret is.
Is true, and it is a devastating finale in that way, like emotionally for Reddington, in terms of losing these characters. Not a great hour for a wrestler either, when he's basically just sort of called out on his feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. He's got the feelings. They're clearly there. We now know for sure that they're there from that kiss.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy when we have a little bit more for the task force to do again. It felt like in this episode, Park and Aram were just kind of there.
Yeah, I am missing that as well. I mean, I know that the show is about Liz and Reddington, but I do love the task force when they're all kind of working together.
There's going to be so much that we have to sort of sift through after all of this, and I think a lot of these characters are going to have to do some soul searching, because the scene between Dembe and Liz as well,
Man, that hurt.
that was so good, and I think it spoke a lot to Dembe, and I think it probably is going to affect Dembe a lot, being told, you are the same as Reddington. You guys are not different, and I think Dembe may kind of feel a part of that, but I think Dembe still believes he is his own person.
Yeah, I mean, and you could see it in his face, too, when he had to, like, tie up Liz's hands and sitting there where she was like, look at me, and he was just like, I can't, man, I can't. Like, you could see it in his face.
Whatever we believe on the Blacklist, I think the important thing to remember, at least with Dembe, and his conversations have proved this out year after year, he has always believed there is a different way for this to be handled than how Reddington has chose to handle it. And while we are conjuring up our theories behind this episode, and we want to hear all of them in the comments, but just keep that in mind, that Dembe feels like there was a different way that this could have happened, but Reddington put the ball in motion to where we end up losing Katarina, we end up losing Dom. Maybe Liz's actions accelerated or changed things as well, but they are on a collision course now, and I don't know if there's any way to avoid it.
We all need to put on our hard hats, because if we're hoping for Liz and Reddington to be going off into the future and having an empire and just moving forward, that's not coming anytime soon, or if at all at this point.
We need more storytelling. We also need more silliness. I want more humor in the next episode or two. I think we need it after what we just went through.
This was a tough episode.
It was
a good episode,
yeah.
But a very tough episode.
Well, we're all in it together now. Let us know what you thought about this episode. What moments stand out for you? Is it an individual conversation? Is it a line? Where is your brain going? Share, and also subscribe to the channel, give us a like, support us further by checking those links to the store, our Patreon, and we'll see you here next time.